Welcome, everybody, back to our first recording, our first episode, our first interview here of Minds of Markets 2024. And boy, I think the markets overall have not started off how we thought they would have this year. Honestly, there's no better person in this industry, and I know a lot of people in this industry that I would rather have on to talk about this right now than this guy who's here with me, my good friend. Many of you may know him as the BigBeat. That's his, let's call it acronym. That's his description in this industry. Steve Orr. Let me give you guys just a real quick background on Steve, because this guy has done it. He's seen it. He's been there in every part of this marketplace. Before we do that, let me just get the legal stuff out of the way here so our attorneys don't go off the rails on me. Minds of Markets podcast is an exploration and deep dive into the minds of some of the best traders and investors in the market. Our goal is to help you, the listener, learn from some of the best out there to improve your knowledge and skill set as a trader or investor. The Minds of Markets podcast should be used for information and entertainment purposes only, and the opinions expressed in this podcast, there are opinions only. None of the info contained in the podcast constitutes a recommendation that any particular security, portfolio of securities, transaction, or investment strategy is suitable for any specific person. Trading is risky, and past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Okay, lawyers, get off my back. Steve Orr, BigBeat. This guy, besides being a colleague, he is a really good friend of mine. For people that don't know about BigBeat, about Steve Orr here, I'm going to give you a quick bio because I could go on and on and on and on and on about it. Currently, Steve is the CEO and founder of Quasar Markets. What is Quasar Markets? We're going to get into that. But what's unbelievable about this interview is Steve is live in Davos. He is live in Davos with all of the bigwigs that you see in the financial world right now talking about Quasar Markets. So he's going to give that to us also. He's been an equities and futures trader for about as long as I have, 3+ decades. Board of directors for the American Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Association. He was the chief strategy officer at Money.net, a senior vice president at Benzinga, on and on and on and on. So that's his street cred. We don't even have to talk any more about this. Steve, I can't wait to get to you, but I had to do this because we have this long-standing kind of rivalry, let's say. So I'm just going to show everybody what I'm wearing right now, and I'm glad that you're representing this in Davos for us. So thank you very much.
It's interesting, Scott. I think the colors on my screen were red and blue, which I think are the Cardinals colors. So I decided over the week that I would wear, at least one day at Davos, that I would wear my Cardinals shirt, the STL right all over it. So I would walk around Davos. But yeah, you're right, Scott. I am here live from Davos, Switzerland. They call it Davos here. And the World Economic Forum, which they nicknamed it the WEF here. And one of the things I've always wanted to do, Scott, was actually be in Davos, much less. I actually thought I would never get to. But I'm actually speaking here, and I've spoken already 6 times. I've got another 3 to go. Wall Street Journals. I've already done Reuters, CNBC. So it's been an exciting week. Let me tell you, when I look at social media, Scott, and I see that all the bad social media posts and how they're trying to change the world, I can tell you that's not the case. It is really the brightest minds in the world, the smartest, and some of, and obviously the ones who do pull the strings in the world, all come together in a place where security is tight. You just can't come in here and disrupt it and let the people actually talk amongst themselves. And it's very open. In other words, yes, you have to sign up for events because it's so busy. There's dinners and parties we all have to do. But in the daytime, you get to hear literally straight from them some of their thoughts about how the world is actually working, changing. Zelensky was here the first date. I just heard from Steve Schwartzman, the CEO of Blackstone, $1 trillion AUM. This is literally the place to be if you can get over here to very cold Switzerland.
Oh, come on, very cold. It's sub-zero here in Chicago. But anyway, you just mentioned Schwartzman. Let's start with that. Did he
Yeah.
mention anything about the Bitcoin ETFs, and since they're a big part of that, and what that means for that industry? And I'm kind of tying in your relationship with the American Blockchain Association as well. So I'd like to start there, and there's so much that I want to cover about what's going on over there.
Yep. So Andy Sorwer, who's the head of Barron's, was moderating the panel, and he didn't ask about crypto in specific. He did ask about something that we're both deeply into, and that is real estate. As you know, Blackstone has the largest portfolio of real estate of which people live in, and he said something very interesting. Two things, actually, as you pulled that championship mug up, is the first thing he said was that he thinks that we are at 2% already, which is very interesting. He said that the Fed is actually not using the data that we as traders rely on. The Fed's using old data. The second thing I thought was very interesting, he said that he expects rate cuts. He does expect them, and says that the Fed should do it in the end of middle to end of next year, so third and fourth quarter. Now, as you know, Scott, you and I think both agree that I think the Fed should cut now and get us back on track. But the Fed does its own thing. We know that. We did hear from ECB president as well, saying that as traders, we're betting on that those rate cuts. It's really hurting the interest rates, and I disagree with her. Yeah.
Saw that. And, but then you get that out of the ECB, and their inflation number that just came out was much hotter than expected. It was like 4%. Sure. And then we get a data point this morning, retail sales here. We hear all this talk about the consumer being in trouble, the consumer just racking up literally record levels of debt. And then we hear the retail sales number is hotter than expected. Consumers are still out there spending. Is that at the expense of just racking up this debt? And is that part of what the Fed is just not seeing? And they're waiting for that data down the road, whether it's 2 months, 6 months, 8 months down the road, to come crashing down when we all think, I'm not going to say we know, when we all believe that that's the issue right now.
So I'm going to give you the answer, and as I've been talking about this a little bit over the last few years, is the greatest wealth transfer in history has happening, right? It's the baby boomers' money that is now being transferred into the hands of the 50s and 60-year-olds now are getting that money, and they're investing, right? And then they're giving it to their kids, and their kids are buying zero DTEs, they're buying NFTs. They don't really understand how to invest. And let me tell you, Scott, we're talking about it here. Down the street is the Crypto 2030. I'm actually there too as well. I think I have my badge there too as well for Crypto 2030. But what's interesting is they're talking about too that NFTs aren't as hot. That they're actually starting to see something that I have been pounding the table about is education, right? And I think that's what Quasar Trading is very good, is educating the people. It's the same thing, right? I think that these, and I don't want to say kids, but the younger retail traders are actually getting educated, and they're not just buying willy-nilly NFTs anymore. They literally are starting to do their homework and learn a little bit more about the markets that they're buying into.
That's a good thing, because there was a big lapse there. There was, I don't want to say a whole generation, but there was a big lapse there. So that's a good thing, because it's not just a good thing for Prosper Trading Academy, but it's really a good thing, quite frankly, for economies, because if you start to get more informed decision making, let's call it, and less flipping a coin, less, God, I'm going to make my bet right now because this new generation of investors is used to, boy, I want my results right now. I think that's a good thing. And I think that that is a good thing for the markets, and will keep the markets in general, at least, very robust, engaged. What happens up, down, sideways, that's yet to be determined. But no, that's a great thing. I know one of the other things that's got to be front and center, if it's not taking up 80, 90% of all the time out there, has got to be this thing that I just heard about last week called AI.
Yeah, Scott, you and I have been talking about AI for years, so no, you haven't just heard about it last week. What is interesting is at last Davos, at last Web, they were talking about it from the Sam Altman's perspective of ChatGPT, right? It was brand new, it's exciting, he's now the newest billionaire on the planet, and it's going to answer all the world's problems. Well, here we are a year later, and they're not talking about ChatGPT as perspective. They're now saying that we need to put it into our daily lives. And how do we do that in a way that's A, ethical, B, that's actually, and as I've been saying, makes us more efficient, and C, I think a lot of times AI needs to be in all aspects of our lives in a way that's not intrusive. So the first thing we talk about AI, how do we make it a situation where it's better? We need to put it in finance, right? So that we make better traders. We need to put it in healthcare because we're seeing AI right now in a way that making new drugs much faster and not having to go through all the processes in order to produce new drugs.
Can I take that back for a second because I want to discuss about that finance part.
Sure.
Okay. So when you say put it into finance, are you talking about in making better traders using it to evaluate past data? As traders, we'll look at technicals, we'll look at fundamentals, and we'll look at a chart and make a decision in a couple of seconds. Are you saying use AI where it can calculate a gazillion different iterations of a potential situation in a nanosecond and then give you the best potential setup for what you want to do? Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yes and no. Very good point and very good question. I'm telling you that AI is doing one thing. We always want to know the future. That's what we're always buying, right? Whether you're buying a stock for the future, whether you're buying futures for futures, we're trying to find the misplacement of pricing. That's what makes us traders, right? We think a price is too low or price is too high. We try to manipulate that, right? So in AI, what we want to do is we want to take the actual AI. Now ChatGPT, Anthropic, Copilot, we all know the names of them, are being banned on Wall Street, right? Because why? Because they hallucinate. Okay, they make up things. But what if we could take that AI and attach it to the actual databases? In our case, SEC for Edgar filings, right? For us, maybe it's spread, maybe it's CPI data, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and attach the actual AI product, layer them so you have more than one AI, and then ask questions from it. And at Quasar Markets, we actually built that software. We're releasing it on February 2nd. But that's what I wanted to do. Now, as you know, Scott, if you have better data and better, as a more informed trader, you're going to make better decisions. And so I didn't just want to be more informed based on old data. I also wanted to create generative AI, which is, giving us a picture of what was being displayed. But then I also wanted to have predictive AI saying, okay, if these trends are being followed and these things are happening, here's where the data should go. Now, I wanted to create it from a perspective of also doing all of that and knowing what traders are asking. So if I know what's on their minds, then I'll also be more informed. And so in order to do that, we have an ability on the retail and institutional side to be able to follow the questions in real time and see what they're actually asking. What companies are they interested in? What geopolitical issue are they worrying about? And not just from that perspective, we also including closed captioning, so I know what's being said on TV. It's pretty exciting how it's being implemented in finance. They're also using it for algorithmic trading so that as they bring this data into a data lake, and building a data lake as well, to be able to attach institutional, say APIs or WebSocket so that those traders can literally trade algorithmically off of AI data. That's crazy, but it's true and it's actually happened.
So you just mentioned institutional. That's on the institutional side. How does the average Joe, how does the average retail trader that's trading 20 contracts a day, 50 contracts a day trader, maybe just trading positions, how does that benefit them? Because we all know, over the last decade or so, as the markets have evolved to almost fully electronic, though I will hang my hat, there is still live trading on some trading floors. Yes, thank goodness. As the market has evolved to the electronic world, it is about speed, and it is about the institutions and the big firms that have that edge because of speed. So is that just going to box out the small retail guy, or is there going to be a use case that the retail guy, and maybe it's on a Quasar market, which I want you to talk about, where that can be to their advantage, and they're not going to be behind the eight ball to the bigger players in the market.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I actually built it so that the retail trader will have the exact same data that institutional traders will have as well. I wanted to level the playing field. It's always been.
That's a game changer. For people that are day trading specifically, that is a game changer.
Yeah, because I think it's an unfair advantage for institutions. Now, institutions pay for data, and data is not cheap, as you know. But what if I could put that data in their hands too? A good example of that, Scott, for me, right? So let's say gold prices in Japan go up overnight. Hasn't really affected the United States. We're not sure which way it's going to go. Well, you're going to be able to find out why exactly, because it's going to say, okay, we know that the price of gold in Japan jumped, but as traders, we sometimes just speculate on the idea of why. But what if AI could actually tell us exactly why it did it and could speculate on the position of it in the future? Maybe something changed in Japan. Maybe CPI data came out or inflation goes up and people are like, oh, they're scared. They're going to start buying gold again. But inflation goes down in the United States. There's a balance. I want to be so far ahead of all of that that we can win on both ways, on the upside and downside as we trade throughout as you both know, Globex started. We all got scared, right? But trading is now 24/7, right? And so here we go. We want to make sure.
Lack of sleep.
Yes, exactly. But let the machine do it for us. What if I could make it where algorithmic trading allows the traders on as we set it, the buys, the sells, how we do it, linear regression, Bollinger Bands. We could set it all based on either data coming out in news or based on how we trade. I don't want to be the person telling somebody how to trade with trade strategies. I want to just give them that kind of hard data as fast as I can possibly get it in their hands. And that way that they can't say, well, I didn't know. Right now they know.
So this new platform thing, this Quasar Markets thing, which again, I just heard about this last week. No, just kidding. Full disclosure here, everybody. I have been involved with Steve and Quasar Markets for some time. So full disclosure.
Since the beginning. Yep.
Since when?
Since the beginning.
Yes, since the beginning. In fact, pretty cool side note here. Steve and I were both asked to sit on a panel live at the NASDAQ March, was it 13th, something like that. We're going to sit on this panel talking about AI in the marketplace, specifically for the retail trader and getting that data. But anyway, so leveling the playing field, that is something that you and I and all of our friends and relatives and people that we know that are, somewhat passive or active day traders, that's something they're not, introduced to yet. This new platform that's going to do that?
I would disagree because the NASDAQ is up 44%. And then we couldn't say, hey, the NASDAQ is up 44% without talking about AI, right? And, what's interesting with the AI, it's sometimes in the marketplace of speculation is that we're betting on what the future says, right? Okay, we really think that if you go back to our time, .com, right? We didn't even know what .com meant, right? But everybody was betting on everything, pets.com and whatever the .com was, we were betting on that, right? We didn't know how it was going to really affect our lives. Today, we don't even think about that. We all have Gmail and we can't live just like we're at now, live from Davos. That wouldn't have happened back then, right?
No.
So, but here we are. We don't know exactly what AI is going to do. I even said that today. I had a panel that I spoke at today, and we talked about that. I said, look, even myself, who's been at the forefront of AI for 7 years, I've been talking about it, I can't even tell you. If anybody can tell you a decade from now what AI is going to do in our lives, but I will tell you this much. Be a part of the companies that are actually using it, actually have built things. Don't just go willy-nilly, investing in companies that it's an idea, right? The key to AI is execution. Can the company execute it? Does it make that company more efficient? And there are a few companies out here, Scott, that I will tell you that I am looking at, and that one of them is Accenture. And full disclosure there, my wife does work for Accenture. Number two, obviously, CRM, the Salesforce.
Accenture, right?
Yes.
Punch that up right now while we're okay. Oh, all right. It's up 1% today. Nice. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. And then I'm also in Salesforce too. CRM, I say, is definitely another one. And then, of course, everywhere here, there is an AI house everywhere. There's 2 AI houses out here talking about AI constantly. So, yeah, it's totally crazy, huh?
So for let's say an amateur or a very passive person in the market, what you see about AI headline wise is one of two things. A, it's changing the world. B, it's evil. Okay. No, and I'm being really serious
No,
about that.
it's
So
a
much
very
out
big
there
question out
how,
here.
and I'm seeing so many articles being written and so many comments about AI being kind of equivalent to how Bitcoin was used for nefarious reasons and this, that, and the other. Is there talk about that there in Davos on how to combat that? Because we know with any new technology, go back to Y2K and the .com, there's always going to be some negatives, right? There's always going to be negatives. But what is the talk about that? Because I think that's really on investors' minds and even people that aren't in the markets, they're worried that boy, AI is gonna, it's gonna destroy us, right?
I couldn't agree more. And the word ethics is literally everywhere here. Every panel that I've been on, I spoke at, saw, watched. Let me tell you, the word ethics is big. So big that everybody's nervous, right? They don't know how to put the rails on. Even in my own company, I make sure that the rails are on by attaching the AI to the actual databases. That's why I do it. I don't want the thing to be heuristic and make up numbers, right? And the ethics side also is, does it give an advantage to somebody? Does it take somebody's job from them? Yes, actually it will. But things will change. We will grow with it. We want it to do incrementally. I think what scares people the most is literally the speed at which things are happening on the AI side. But no, I think it's the companies that are putting it to good use and finding good reasons for it. A good example of that earlier today was agriculture, finding ways to be more efficient, when to plant, how to plant, how deep to go. Is it going to be cold this winter? Is there a chance of it being a warm summer? So we don't plant as deep. It's going to be a lot of rain. It was interesting, right? We looked at it from a perspective of a company like Pfizer, PFE, about how they were talking about how fast they were making drugs more efficient, cleaner, less side effects, and you needed less doctors in order to do that, right? Because it already knew all the side effects that could possibly happen, and it was creating that. We also saw it. I heard a day earlier about the travel industry, which I thought was very interesting. How to make travelers a lot more efficient as well. Meaning, Scott, I know you like to go out to Colorado, right? When's a good time to go, Scott? When's the best flight to go, right? We're going to Davos.
Last week during the 4-foot snowstorm where I couldn't get out there because all the roads were closed. Let me just tell you.
I just took my crampons off a few minutes ago. If you don't know what that is, it's your spikes on your boots here. Yep. It's interesting. That's exactly right? We didn't know when the roads were going to be closed. And instead of going out in the wintertime, this is not like a weatherman anymore. You're actually making a lot deeper decisions. And how does it affect traders? It's very simple. We're from Illinois. We know weather can easily change crops and crops costs and carryover charges and things of that nature can really be affected by the price. And so AI can also help us in that aspect, giving us a better detail of the weather, which is a big deal out here. And I'll tell you something else.
Okay.
One more thing about AI I thought was funny was alcohol and drugs and things of that nature. They were talking about the usage of, how things have changed a little bit. And so what they were saying was that in colder weather, people drink more. And we already know that, right? But what were they and how do you invest in that, right? And so how do you make money off of that? Everything in our world revolves around what we do. We're all human beings, right? And we buy things and sell things. And that's what traders do.
Well, what I was going to say is, even for someone that doesn't fully understand it, when you hear the likes of a Tim Cook, or most recently, just yesterday, Elon Musk saying, this is not a referendum on Elon Musk, but this is just him saying, I've got to get the other 12% of my company back because I need to invest that in AI, right? Mm-hmm. Tim Cook saying that every product Apple has is going to be AI driven. Schwartzman. Yep. I mean, they're all saying it. So there obviously has to be something to it. And I feel like this is not just the new thing, because every generation, every couple decades or so, we get that new thing that is absolutely a game changer, changes the way that quite frankly we live on a daily basis. AI is probably it, and like you said, I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface yet, have we?
No, and it was interesting. Steve Orr said this afternoon, he goes, look, I've been talking about AI for many, many years. And I came up with the idea because he was talking to Jack Ma from Alibaba, talking about AI in 2015. And the reason was they were both in a car in Shanghai, going back and forth. And they were talking about it, and we got into a traffic jam. What if the AI could fix them and tell them where to go? Now, we now know that's already being put in the world, right? Google Maps and things tells us, hey, don't go this route, go that route. The answer to AI is not that we understand it or feel it, the ethics side of it, whatever. It'll just be integrated into our everyday life. We won't even know it, to be honest with you. We'll have a problem with the hotel. We'll pick the phone up. Right now, you don't even call a person, right? You call somebody who's can I help you? And you're like, oh, you're not even talking to a human, right? Here's something that I saw and I liked it a lot. When you're looking at the news or you're watching a TV program and something grates you, you don't like that person, or you would prefer to hear it from something else, you can change that person. You can change their voice, but still get the same information they're saying. In other words, you don't like that. You don't want to have a male presenter. You want a female presenter. You want them to have red hair, not purple hair. It doesn't matter. You can set that for yourself in any language at any time. That was really cool. So when people say to me, journalists are going to lose their jobs, somewhat, yeah, if they don't switch in. But I do think that the world of journalism is going to change very quickly, very fast. And I think they might actually be the only group that's actually changing with AI.
Very interesting. And I would bet that over the coming months here leading up to the election, that will be a front and center with the media and journalists. But that's a whole conversation for another time. One more thing, because I know you are super, super busy there. One more thing I want to touch on is not the outlook for markets in general, of whether you're bullish, you're bearish, are we going up, are we hitting a recession, but the effect for day trading, the effect for retail trading, the interest, is that still there? I know it has grown exponentially over the last several years. Option trading has exploded. Is that going to continue?
Yes, but not the way that we see it today. So as you know, Scott, I talked about option trading 7 years ago, that it was going to explode, and it has. As I've been talking about, it's coming now, is fixed income trading. Fixed income trading is going to go ballistic. We're going to see, it already started. That's right. Put more derivatives out there, right? There's a big group coming out now. But that's right. It's going to be more fixed income. Why? It's the biggest market in the world. Debt is the biggest market, as we know. And to be able to trade debt all over the world at any time, just wait. As you educate profit trading and I educate people, they're going to learn about fixed income, and they're going to trade it, and they're going to put their money to it as well. And as you saw with the CBOE, the CBOE, and other derivatives companies, they're going to find ways to make derivatives out of it too. So that volume is going to grow up too. So yes, we're not going to just have more retail traders, which we are. We're going to have better informed retail traders, and more money is going to be put into it because they're going to feel better about it. That is one of the things that is literally what the whole web is about this year, is trust and transparency. And I think as we see the markets grow in the trust and transparency, that's when people are going to feel better, and they're going to put more money into something they trust in. So yes, I think trust is important. And I think trust and having more volume, more derivatives, more things to invest in. I mean, when you and I were growing up in the markets, we had corn and soybeans and bonds, pork bellies, as we all know, and live and feeder cattle. There's some of them still around, some of them aren't, right? Milk. But if you look at it from a perspective of the future, what will we be trading? We don't really know, because quite frankly, if you were told me we were going to have zero BTEs, I would have said no way 30 years ago.
We didn't know, nor did we really care. We didn't care at all.
No,
right?
We didn't.
Yeah, I mean, you really didn't care what commodity it was you were trading. You just wanted to trade something that was in front of you that was active.
What if you could trade computing power, which is what I think we'll see in the future too. You may have a computer at home or a desktop that's not being used, and somebody pays you for that power, and you sort of trade that.
All right. Buy them. All right. Listen, I know you're busy. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time out to do this. Again, both as a colleague, more importantly, as a friend. I respect you. I love you. You're awesome. Not sure if I'm going to see you before we're together again in New York, but that's going to be an amazing event. I am so excited for that at the NASDAQ in mid-March. But before we go, give us a quick shout out. Where can people find out about what Quasar Markets is? I know the launch is just in a couple weeks here. What it's all about? Where can they find you? Where can they find Quasar?
Yeah, quasarmarkets.com. It's very simple. There's a platform side to it. There's an institutional side of it. There's an investment side of it. We're going to have an education side of it, which you guys will be part of. It's Quasar, QUASARMARKETS.com. And look, I have built a platform that is for retail and institutions. And listen, it is literally on the lips of everyone here at Davos. And I am so thankful and so excited about that. But I look forward to being back home. I look forward to seeing you in New York City and at the trade talks. We're going to do it right for life from the NASDAQ market site, as you know. Right. And so that's super exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Awesome. Thank you again so much. Safe travels back. Spring training's only a month away. Really appreciate it, Steve. Have a great rest of your time there. Safe travels back. Thanks, you.
Scott. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You got it. All right, guys. I think that is a wrap. Steve, thank you. Thank you. That was awesome.
Yep. And I'm sorry, I was going to do it from the Wall Street Journal's headquarters, but it was so busy up there and I couldn't hear anything. I was like, okay, I'm just going to just come back downstairs. But I'm actually in the Belvedere Hotel, so where it's all happening. All right, guys, I need to run. I've got another panel to go to that I got to speak at. But yep, love you, man. Bye.
You too. Bye.